and that's why you'll find someone staring at a fire for 3 hours because they focus in on it and they see whatever they want to see and they go deeper. But I also would not have put anything under a religious experience. Yeah.
Why not?
I'd also taken several drugs.
Yeah, why
because
not?
nothing religious happened. I didn't feel anything religious.
Disappointed.
Yeah, I put a mirror in front of myself and I was trying to communicate, that didn't happen though. So, I was definitely trying to go into that side of it, but if it didn't come out of it, then surely, if it was meant to happen, you were meant to have a religious experience, surely I would have been the one to have it, seeing as I was looking for it.
What is a religious experience? I'm not sure what one is. Sort of walk
Speaking
on
to
water
the dead or something, I don't know.
Oh.
What did you expect? Speaking to that? Yeah, interesting.
Ooh.
Wasn't Timothy Leary responsible for some of the religious thing?
Connotations for that? It may be. Cup of tea. You didn't have a megaphone, so let me make sure that everybody can hear you. I could hear you from the different part of the opposite part of the room, so I suppose everybody could. Timothy Leary.
Timothy Leary, he tried to promote the religious or spiritual aspect of,
Curious.
particularly LSD, I think, which is one of the. He popularized the idea that you could have spiritual or religious experiences, but that also, I think, led to one of the these drugs all being banned because essentially once he started pushing that religious line, the churches pushed back because who's going to go to church when you can pop a pill? Yeah.
LSD's far better plan.
Well, yeah.
If I thought I could have a religious experience, even now, taking, and I think I'd try it. I mean, I would love to go to a place where I can experience that sort of thing.
Well, I'm like you, mate. I'm over 60, so I kind of feel that 60 is a good age at which all these things should be legal again.
It's going to be. It looks like
it's
going to be.
They don't pick on us young people. We want it too.
Everyone gets high. Yeah, got it.
Well, that's what
share the love.
LSD for everybody, basically, and that's what brought it into disrepute, I think. That's the American guy, yeah? Obviously, yeah?
The Leary, yeah, he was American, yeah.
I actually surprisingly know very little about him. I heard his name so many times in different cross-references, but I never got to read too much about it. I was interested more in, chemical and medical aspects of it and just spiritual things. And I guess I wanted to know more from personal experience first and then compare it to the, other people's experiences, let's say. Yeah, probably that. Okay, I see some hand raises, at least a couple of them. So maybe I'll give some megaphones. I see Jet, but 9 minutes ago. Do you want to add anything? No. Okay.
No.
Delete. Okay. Buckaroo. So let me give you a megaphone. It may take some time, but eventually, yeah. You. Tell me if I'm too loud. Yeah. That's fine. It's not too loud. You're not shouting at us.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, nice. Well, the microphone is fine.
I found I did acid when I was young for probably about 40. And I found the most religious experiences that I had were always ones where I was among friends, and the most particularly one that I recall was when I was with a fairly close friend of mine, guy friend, and then there was these two girls that we kind of knew, but it was not. It was nothing.
Microphone?
Huh?
Sorry, are you far from your microphone?
No, I can get closer, or I can turn it up.
Get closer. We request you to shout at us. I guess. So let's do the check.
No,
Get closer and try your microphone. You have no megaphone so far, so you can get closer to the microphone.
trying to turn myself up.
Uh-huh.
Is that better?
Not really.
Not
Yeah.
really.
Oh, wait. I was turning around on my desk. That's why y'all couldn't hear me. The dangerous
These
thing-
VRs trick you into thinking that you're...
It's good to face them.
Yeah.
Okay, is that
Yes, it's
better?
clear, but nobody else.
A little
Okay,
bit
cool.
tiny.
Yeah, good, but still. Let me give you a
Yeah,
microphone.
I can go up. Okay.
There you go.
Sorry.
Cool. All right.
Excellent.
So, anyway, yeah. Is that better? All right. So,
Much better.
like the most profound experience, like with friends I had, was like we all went to this. So we all went to this forest area where we knew no one was going to be, but we weren't going to get lost. It had a stream that you could follow and everything, and we all took it at the same time, and over the course of the day, we got to such a point where we were literally finishing each other's sentences. Like our thoughts were, we'd just be discussing stuff, and we wouldn't. Yeah, we were so connected that we hardly had to speak at all, and it was like really, really spooky.
I had that too.
Like,
yeah.
laughed about it, and and so I mean, I would say like the religious part, especially like on LSD, that for religious experiences, the strongest ones were always where I was among friends, and it was a good environment.
Well, if
That's about
it's soul manifested, it makes sense, because if you are around friends, again, setting, you feel comfortable and you have this shared space where you have ideas, and you have this connection where it's safe. So I think you get closer to maybe your soul. Who knows? Everybody gives different definitions. So after I'm finished with these theoretical things, I would love to dive deeper into the discussion. So yeah, we'll go there definitely. So again, setting. So no matter the classification of a psychedelic substance, a person's experience or any drug is heavily influenced by the internal state of the person and the environment and social context where the substance is taken. This is commonly referred to as the setting. Psychedelics amplify emotions and thoughts, and depending on the person's internal state and environment, can bring a euphoria or terrifying wave of anxiety and paranoia. So it could be both. It could be a bad trip, or it could be like a unifying feeling of oneness and amazing travel through space, because if you take LSD and or DMT, at least from what I heard, it gives you these visuals. Actually, like some people are scared of that if they're not prepared to what they're going to experience. I think a lot of people in the 60s especially, they got in trouble because they didn't know what to expect. It's a powerful experience, and I think sometimes people get scared of that, and they can't they don't know what to do, and they get freaked out. So it's very important. To me, it's very important to realize what is going to happen. So, and setting. And I think your experience also may depend on the previous thoughts that you had. Once, when I decided to have this aware experience, actually, I found this guy whose name is Stan Grof. I didn't know too much about him, so I just came across this person, and I'm like, oh, this guy is really interesting. It's a pleasure to listen to him, because he's from Czechoslovak Republic, former, he's from the 20s or 30s, I believe. He's very old now, and relatively old. And I found it very interesting to listen to him as a person. And he was a psychologist, and I just listened to his different, talks and lectures. And then I found, I started digging more, and I found a radio recording of 9 hours of something that was a series of radio shows, like with Stanislav Grof. And I'm like, wow, 9 hours, you should have a lot of time to do that. And actually, I was listening to that recording for like a couple of hours, and I took my dose, and actually it took me to a very deep, profound journey. because as I was listening, it gave me food for thought. And I was, traveling within this wave of, information and fathoming, and through empathy and connection to that personality, like the Stanislav Grof, it took me somewhere else. And I noticed that whatever you study, whatever you watch or you're interested in, well, like just before all those experiences, it kind of takes you deeper into that vibe, I would say, into that mood and into that field of knowledge or feelings or something. If you're worried about something, of course it's going to take you there. I feel like it's opening the aperture, like have you seen the insides of a camera where you have the ISO, like the solar, the sensitivity of a camera to the light, or maybe you're like your eye. When you see a bright light, your eye, like your pupil becomes much smaller, and when it's actually dark, your pupil becomes like bigger. So an aperture. It feels like when you take these my experience, when you take these substances, it feels like all the levels of your personality open up immediately. So you have your conscious and subconscious level all opened up. And sometimes you may find something there that you've been hiding there for a long time because it was traumatic for your psyche. So yeah. So particularly LSD, this is a fun picture because LSD sometimes is called a bicycle because Albert Hofmann actually, when he chemically found the formula, he actually accidentally spilled like I think 1,000-fold dose on his hand. And he didn't know that before he took the bicycle ride back home. And that was a hell of a trip.
I think he got it I think he rubbed his eye with it.
Oh, rubbed eye. Maybe. Something, physical contact. I remember that he didn't drink it on purpose, but still he had some contact with it. And you can absorb it through all kinds of channels. You can drink it, you can lick it, you can touch it. It's just absorbed by your body as, I guess, serotonin. If it's in your bloodstream, it kind of goes where it needs to go. So, yeah, and it's curious that it doesn't have a lethal dose. And you need very little because it replaces your receptors and your hormones, which, they're just particles and you don't need too much for that. For alcohol, imagine how much alcohol you have to take to, get to the state where you are, an altered state of mind. And it just takes very little to feel different under LSD in particular. Okay, I see a couple of hand raises. Just now I saw Jet and Paul. Paul, would you like to say something before I give a megaphone to Jet?
Yes. I'd just like to go back to something Buckaroo was saying, and what we were talking about the other week, the difference between a religious and a spiritual experience. I would call interconnectivity between people or whatever, conscious creatures, spiritual more than religious,
Definitely. I would say that that's something about spirit or psyche or subconscious level.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would call it more spiritual than religious.
Yeah, let me wrap up quickly with this stuff. So, yeah, and this course actually gathered all the facts about, references towards, I guess, mushrooms or all other substances. I think mushrooms are the longest, the most ancient psychedelic substance ever. So Algerian cave paintings, 5,000 BCE, like 4,000 BCE, Salva Pascuala murals, mushrooms, a lot of mushrooms in art. Peyote buttons in Shamula caves, like a lot of shamans used to use these substances, of course. Ergot derived cocaine, I would say, yeah. How would you pronounce that? Ancient Greece. Yeah, Guatemalan mushroom sculptures, different scriptures. I think the Veda, Soma. Oh, that's curious. Soma is used in Aldous Huxley's book. What was it? The Brave New World. Oh, I recommend to everybody to read that book. That's very curious. It was written in 1920s or 30s, something like that. And he actually described this Western type civilization, utopia. So it's very curious how to realize that we, to a large extent, we live in such a dystopian or utopian world. Who knows? So Aminu Muscaria is actually a mushroom. Chukotka is part of the Siberia. It's a Russian territory. It's a red mushroom with a red cap and like white dots in it. I've always heard that this is a poisonous mushroom and you shouldn't take it, or it's going to make you, have a lot of, what was it, saliva and, look crazy. So, but I found out it's getting more and more popular in Russia because it's legal. It's just a poisonous mushroom. Why would you even eat it? So people started revealing the fact that if you cut these mushrooms and they have muscarine, which is poisonous. It's not going to kill you, but it's very definitely not very pleasant. But if you take 2 months to dry these mushrooms, the muscarine actually it changes into the second chemical that it has, ibotene acid, I guess. Ibotenic acid, I'm not sure. So from on that point, like after 2 months of drying the mushrooms, they actually stop being poisonous and they give you these, relaxed, docile feeling of oneness and something. So yeah, it's getting more and more popular. People nowadays in big cities and everywhere, they in Russia in particular, they use mushrooms like these to microdose, to be calm, to be more focused, to be kinder to other people. Yeah, a lot of people say that it helps them. Yeah, peyote.
Is Putin taking it?
I couldn't hear you. Once again? Something taking it?
Is Putin taking it?
Oh, who knows? Putin is a very secret guy, He has few bunkers. Who knows where he is right now? So yeah, there's the newest history. Albert Hoffman, 1943. Ooh, the World War gave us a lot of secret research and studies, and now we learn more about it. It's Bicycle Day and Sushi Rammstein. Oh my God, April 19, for some reason, 4/19. Yeah, Sandoz. I think somebody in this room in VR worked in Sandoz. Have you worked in Sandoz, or do you still work there?
Me, I'm retired.
Oh.
Sandoz merged with Ciba Geigy to become Novartis. I work for Novartis, and prior to that, Ciba Geigy. But it's the sister company, both Swiss.
Mm-hmm. Curious.
I retired years ago.
Yeah, we have a specialist in the house. Yay, I love it. So yeah, in the 40s, it was derived from, just for research purposes, but later on, as you know, in the 60s, it has been more popular. Captain Tripp's L. Hubbard, LSD and treatment. So there were some studies, but later on, I think the door of perception, like heaven and hell, Aldous Huxley, very curious. He was into it. But in the 60s, I think everything was banned. FDA makes LSD experimental drug in the 62, restricting research by making LSD an experimental drug. Oh, there it is, the Leary guy, psychologist Richard Alpert. Yep, counterculture. So in this explored. Yeah, I think we're done with the theoretical part. So there it is, 1970. The Richard Nixon signs Controlled Substances Act. That actually...
Ricky Dicky.
Yep. Illegal. Oh, I love these guys. These are Russians. Shrieking. Yeah, sure.
Before we go too far on, I did just want to make a point as the negative side effect that I had during an LSD trip.
Yeah, let's talk about it, because negative, we have to have both sides.
Yeah. I don't think, I suppose I can't say whether it was just LSD or if it was messed with in a way. Mm-hmm. I find it probably was messed with. My friend and I both, our muscles contracted completely, our entire bodies, and we couldn't move for several hours. We were stuck in this contracted,
paralyzed.
It was horrible, and I can't even show you how. Just the feeling of it. We could barely talk to each other. The whole experience was just horrid.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd had several other good experiences on it before that, but that one had just gone very sideways. Nothing else to it, but we just couldn't move for hours.
Sounds, yeah, I remember you mentioned that, but
never a
it's
good
always
feeling.
yeah, it's always good to mention that. And I think it has to be mentioned that you know, all psychedelics, they kind of they activate some patterns that are very unusual for our brain. So I think that it could be very, very dangerous for some people who have mental diseases or predisposition to mental diseases, because it can give a psychotic break. And there are many cases where people had psychotic breaks and they would, you know, get into a you know, special institutions because of that. And I'm not sure which ones, though. I don't want to deceive you or misinform you, but I believe something like schizophrenia.
Special institution.
Yeah, like I forgot the word. Was it asylum or something?
You mean psychiatric hospital?
Well, yeah. Definitely, most definitely. Yeah, you don't want to mess with your psyche if it's cracked.
Well, it would seem quite likely that there are people walking the streets today that have serotonin or dopamine levels equivalent to what you or I might have if we drop a tab.
Who knows?
Could be normal for some people, yeah.
Maybe, but I think it kind of gives you these special. Have you seen the shapes? The shapes are different. So the difference is they actually give you this additional stuff, I believe, that, like, you know, those 2, 3 little branches that you have in chemical structure may give you a totally different experience, because sometimes chemistry is complex. I'm not very knowledgeable in it, but still it may give you additional you know, things. So
I think it's a long time since I had any acid. I did acid a bit way back. There used to be, it'd be in the 70s and 80s. Strychnine was a common problem in those days as a byproduct, I think, of the manufacturer. Strychnine's I think, a rat poison that gives you stomach cramps and
yeah, I think
which really is just an argument for legalization.
Well, yeah, to some extent, I think that makes sense. It looks like we are moving that way, and with the different substances as well. Like psilocybin is a whole other story. Like we talk about LSD a lot because it's something I think they're most popular, but I think it's the most prominent and the most mentioned today is actually psilocybin, and I hear a lot about psilocybin. It may give you, I think I heard some studies where it had a nootropic effect. It could grow new connections in your brain and help you with some, you know, diseases, and definitely helps for a major depression disorder and for PTSD when people have, you know, traumas, and it helps to, well, of course, sometimes, mostly it should be combined with therapy and just used as a, you know, additional tool, not just, you know, being high at home. But still, psilocybin is very curious, and DMT also is mentioned a lot. It's started being used in therapy sessions and everything, which is very different, because if you have LSD trip, it's going to be at least for 12 hours, whereas DMT could be something like some people say 15 minutes, 5 minutes to 15 minutes. It's very intense. But like in your subjective time, it's very long, but in reality, it's super short. Like at least, you know, half an hour max, I heard. And then psilocybin actually has the lifespan of 4 hours, around that, 4 or 5 hours. So yeah, I think I'm done with theoretical part. I think it's it's more fun to just, you know, discuss different opinions and experiences. Since we have such a diverse, nice group of people who come from the 60s and, you know, different younger people. Okay, I see 3 hand raises from Paul right now, Mardo Lassoir, and Shell. Okay. Okay, Mardo Lassoir, let me give you the megaphone real quick. Or maybe Mendez can back me up with that.
Okay, can you hear me?
Not yet. There you go. I couldn't find you on the list.
Okay.
Good.
This is just a theory, but I read this maybe a month or so ago, uh, they some scientists have speculated
Mm-hmm.
that that during the course of the evolution of modern man,
Mm-hmm.
that our ancestors,
Mm-hmm.
they would find mushrooms, and eat them
Uh-huh.
and
It's called
consume them,
a
and it
stoned
would.
ape theory. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, oh, you've heard of this, then where it
Uh-huh.
elevated them
Yeah.
to a higher state of consciousness, which may have helped us along in our evolution to a higher
It might have also
conscious.
created religion
I mean, it's
for
just a
in some
theory. I
way.
don't think it's been proven or anything, but I think it actually has some merit
Mm-hmm.
to. I mean, animals. They. I mean, they drink. I mean, they'll drink alcohol. So
Get
even
high on
primitive
purpose.
man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think primitive man could very well have taken mushrooms and maybe helped along in the evolution of our brain. Now that's I don't this is just theory.
I
So
know. Yeah, there's a
take it
lot of
for what
speculation around that. You will be surprised how much. Like whenever you talk about psychedelics, you'll always hear about this theory of the stoned ape, which is, well,
yeah.
some people say, well, I think the author of the theory states that at a certain period of time when people were like still, apes, the climate change actually caused a lot of mushrooms everywhere, and they were, nutritious probably. Who knows? And maybe and it makes sense if you think about it, that it has the neurological growth effect. It may be one of the factors why our brains grew in size.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, some additional hand raises. Okay, let's see. Paul, would you like to say something?
Yes, Miss, please. Yeah, you're talking about legalization of certain hallucinogens, and to the extent the Food and Drugs Administration in the United States
Mm-hmm.
likely to product licenses to some of those drugs,
Mm-hmm.
the treatment of PTSD, depression, and other stuff. As you know, the research has been going on at Stanford and John Hopkins and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
NYU, York University, I think, yeah. And also in the Imperial College in London.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
there was a program on the BBC iPlayer about that. Oh, yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be legalized on the market. The problem is pharmaceutical companies can't make much money out of it because all those things are out of patent and mushrooms grow naturally.
Yeah, and also it's like a
Yeah.
one-time dosage. You don't take it regularly. Sometimes you may have a trip, and for 2 or 3 years you don't want to do that, or never want to do that. And I found it so curious that people who participated in LSD studies, they were reviewed. I mean, they were interviewed 10 years after that, and they still ranked the experience with with LSD in that experiment, rated that event as one, like some of the, like top 3 significant experiences in their lives. Like along with marriages, having kids, and I'm like, wow, this is powerful. Like some people have powerful trips, and they remember that for such a long time. Of course, many of them, I think it was around, I don't want to misinform you, but around, 30% of people, they said, well, that wasn't a very pleasant experience. It was tense, they didn't like it, but still. I wanted to put some video for you to kind of show something similar to what you might have in your brain, because you see fractals. Like a lot of people, I was trying to actually find nice video, so. Yeah, but before I do that, actually, let me continue with giving megaphones to hand raises.
I think Shell.
Shell,
I got
yeah,
her.
and then Buckaroo.
Go ahead, Shell. You have the megaphone.
Oh, I just love this topic, but I actually haven't taken LSD. I used to be into it day and night when I was young, and then and after that I went to work, and my brother's partner, he was giving out cannabis as a gift for wages. So that was quite cool because they were really open-minded. And I took the money instead, and I went out and got Sid Barrett albums, and I used high on the album Barrett and Madcap Laughs.
and it used to just go around in my head for ages, for every day and night. Just had to repeat putting it on, and I read the book, and I heard
trying to make
Pink
us
Floyd were part of the communist group that were um, the beginners of testing acid out in the 60s. And it obviously didn't do the lead singer much good. He actually left the group because they said he thought he went back in mentality to a 10-year-old. I don't believe that part, because then after that, I was hospitalized, and after that period, I became a good musician. And a musician acquaintance said, just a brief acquaintance, said that when you take these drugs, what happens is a god takes you up on his planet, and he gives you these different simulations. You can decide whether you believe them or not. You could say that, like, Pink Floyd really wrote an anti-communist album rather than a communist album. And most of these LSD thoughts are about communist socialism ideas that just don't work. That's what I found. And then you have the Jim Morrison, who says, "Oh, drugs expand your horizon." But then you have that caption saying, if you start going around thinking paranoid thoughts about how bad you are for taking drugs and how bad they are for you, then don't look upon another person and say what that person is thinking, because that person is just going to be abstaining just from your paranoia. He's not going to attack you and say, "Oh, you're being an idiot." But you could lose friends that way. I think is that's the big danger of it, because you're kind of like meant to branch off sometimes, because your mates can be a bit too immature.
Was it
That's
Pink
yeah,
Floyd that
that's
wrote Side of the Moon?
yeah, of course.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic. Dark Side of the Moon is good.
that's all LSD inspired. Um, yeah, you don't have to take the communist arrangement that the gods give you seriously, and all those aspects of why society gets dragged down euphorically. And if you kind of like believe um, you're okay, then the drugs will not take an effect. Because Colin Wilson said also, you could take a drug and say, "Oh, I don't want this to affect me. I know drugs make my eyes droop, make my back unstraight, and I don't want to feel the effects of the drug." And you
I'm back.
can direct your mind to not take any effects anymore, just like um just like taking tea, something
Yeah,
with
you're saying
mushrooms that
like you
doesn't
can
work.
will yourself. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
of
by
that.
just
Good
you
luck with
can
that
by
one.
saying, I'm not going to be induced by the
Yep.
favoritism of this
Not you.
drug. I don't want to be taken by this drug. And you can kind of like ignore it, and a drug can just dispel from your entire being, like taking an E and it doesn't work if you don't want to be
Yeah, I've
affected by
heard it
that.
before, and it's just sad. A lot of people don't have that level of awareness to say, "Hey, I'm doing this, but I don't want to do it anymore." And I think that's where a lot of people fall into those
When you think
cycles of
about it,
addiction and abuse.
mm,
Yeah,
when you
Good
think
point.
about it, you're going to get depressed if you take drugs. There's no two ways about it, because it's meant to
Yeah.
be a depression. It's meant to
Yes.
be a
Yeah.
big conspiracy. But I would say, I advise, don't worry about feeling paranoid. You don't have to, because people aren't saying, "Oh, look at him." They're just saying, "Oh, I feel sorry for them at this situation." You don't have to be paranoid about when you take drugs about what other people think. Then that's the biggest dilemma, what other people think, because you could also lose your friends, and that's also part of the big master plan. What God had arranged, because you've outgrown them. So you shouldn't get too
It,
serious in this big bubble of depression.
Well,
It's
I get,
amazing how
Me, I would
little other
just be an
people
optimist, but I
think,
wouldn't take them.
how little other people are judging you. Because people aren't paying attention to you, they're paying attention to their own lives.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bastards.
it takes a lot to understand that sometimes.
It's true.
I think I've got to go. My headset is low. I'm very sorry.
Oh, thanks for
And the
coming.
battery's going to run out.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
Yeah,
sharing.
thanks for
ideas.
coming, Jet. You're
Shell.
you.
Yeah, see you next time.
Oh, Shell, sorry about that.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, I see some QR code there. Mendez put up something. Yeah, okay. I see some new hand raises as well. I'm sorry I missed some part of the Shell's idea. I'm gonna ask later what she was talking about too. Okay, so the last part I caught up then. Okay, Backaroo. Let me give a megaphone to you. There you go.
I was just gonna go back to the Stone Ape thing. Going beyond that, Graham Hancock wrote like really interesting book. If anybody's interested, it was about
Fingerprints of
how. Yeah, I think that was and where he talked about the cave paintings in France and like how they were so far back in the cave that it seemed that they were doing it as a ritual. There's no proof that they might have been taking it, but the theory is France and then in South America with the advent of them knowing how to make ayahuasca, it might have been how religion developed in the human brain because we were seeing all these things, these weird animal like they would have the cave paintings have like animals that are like deer combined with a bear or something like that, like really kind of mystic. It wasn't just painting a deer or a bear; they were combining things, making. He hypothesizes that that it could have been the progenitor or how the human mind felt the idea of religion. I thought it really interesting.
It's very mysterious, curious. And I think the time scales are crazy, like 8,000 years ago. If you think about it, what is going to be left of it?
There's like
Yeah,
Yeah, there was ones. I think there was ones that were up to 30,000 years ago in Africa.
Yep. One of the recent ones.
40,000 years.
Exactly. I think Graham Hancock, the guy that you mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, the guy, if that's the same guy, he's a writer and he talks about
it's the same guy.
like the megalithic structures, right?
Yes.
So,
exactly. That's the guy.
Yeah. Maybe. By the way, Helion, take a note. I think that's an interesting guy to maybe read about. So he also talked about this new idea that maybe 12,000 years ago, there's been like a huge event in North America where there was like a meteorite that actually melted a lot of ice, and there was like a flood. And then after that, there was like another little ice age, and it was a terrible, catastrophic event. And that number actually appears a lot, 10, 12,000 years ago, like the switch from hunter-gathering to farming and everything, like a huge, step in our history. Curious. So look at this crazy video. This is something that's going on like AR glasses in your life if you take, particularly LSD. Isn't it amazing that you actually see something that is like of such complex structure and such complex. It feels like this, like you're traveling through this. You can see the world rather clearly, but on maybe like 5%, 10% of your vision is taken by the second layer. Where you? Oh, by the way, bye. Are you leaving?
Bye. Yeah. Sorry, I gotta go do my shift. So.
Oh yeah. Nice to see you once again.
You.
Yeah. See you next time.
Always good to be here.
Yeah. Have a nice day. Keep thinking about us. We'll keep thinking about you.
I'll try and come back later. I've got so much more to say, Always
Yeah. Nice. I'm gonna keep this space open for as long as it's possible.
Nice.
Yeah, I see. Let me check the hand raises. I have one more. Two. Okay, Paul. Isaac and Paul. 2 minutes ago. Paul, would you like to say something? Paul.
Yes.
Yep. Megaphone.
Deep time. I've got it, have I? Yes.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yep.
Yeah. Talking
Excellent.
about deep time, a very credible source. I was listening a long time ago to a Royal Institute lecture and they were saying it took 1,000,000 years
Mm-hmm.
to change from a single-bladed stone axe
Mm-hmm.
to somebody upgrading to a double-bladed stone axe. 1,000,000 years. I
Yeah,
know it's not.
it's crazy.
I've got a picture of a stone axe on my wall. Like, like single-bladed, 1,000,000 years. Now we get an upgrade every 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's crazy how accelerated time is in the progress. It's almost scary, unless you are moving into an era of an AI, and you can't keep up anymore. Okay, and another hand raise, Isaac. Let me give you a megaphone, and you can express yourself anyhow. Just be respectful. There you go.
Yes, I hope you understand because my English is not so good. I want to say said paranoid, and you have to think you don't have to worry about to be a little bit paranoid because they are thoughts beneath each other. So to say, points of view. Um, if you use it in a medical meaning, so as an illness, that could be dangerous. But if you have paranoid, it's nothing wrong. Yeah, you have some more points of view, and that say the word paranoia. It's noia is thinking, and para means there are some of them beneath each other. So, and
Oh,
if you have to find a solution, um, you are glad or lucky to have more points of views.
yeah,
So
good
that's
counsel
all.
inside your head. Yeah, your English is perfect. Just trust me, because I teach English in Russia. it, it's much worse sometimes those people who live here. So yeah, it's a free space. I come here to practice my English as well. So don't worry about that. I think the communication is number one. What people want to know is they want to understand what you're saying. So yeah. Anybody else? Let me see. Hey, and you're surprisingly silent today. Just keep talking about your book.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll start me off.
You have to. It's a tradition.
My practical experience in this is probably non-existent, so I defer to the much greater knowledge of the people in the room here. But it is very interesting, and it's certainly something which I think is going to become more and more widely thought about in the future as we start to understand how the mind works and maybe be able to use some of the benefits of psychedelics without and control the negative side of it.
Exactly.
Because I get the feeling that psychedelics are a bit of a Wild West. So you get all the good things. Imagine the old Wild West. You know, it was all very exciting, but you had outlaws going around. So it's only when you start to get a decent structure, regulation, education, then you can start to maybe
monitoring.
Get the positive, make the positive things more and the negative things less. Hopefully that will actually happen over time.
I hope so, because it's very impressive, and it's almost too inviting. I would say that the results that I hear and see a lot right now, I wish I could have more more evidence, like more information about different adverse effects and about different effects, because there's so many different factors, and they're like, people are different, their chemistry is different, their thinking is different, their mood is different, the situation where you take the person into a study, it's different. And many people who have bad trips, they don't report, and maybe they will, even if they do report, who knows what's the actual substance is. Because LSD was produced in Switzerland, in Sandoz, and if you want to get it, it's illegal. And if you are going to get it somewhere illegally, you never know what that is, and you have no chance to check it and test it. So yeah, I wish I could live to the day where there's going to be more data and more available data and different
And I think also as
pros and cons. Yeah, Paul, I can hear your voice. Hold on a sec. Let me give you a microphone. There you go.
You're talking about adverse drug side effects. My son almost died when he was very young touching raw egg. Should we withdraw eggs from the market?
we should consider that.
Peanut allergy is very common nowadays.
Yeah, and very severe.
Yeah.
I think people, get asphyxiated because of the nuts.
Yes, nuts are terrible.
Oh, I see more hand raises. Buckaroo,
Uh,
would you like to add something to? Let me give you a megaphone. There you go.
Sorry, this.
Y'all can hear me?
Thank you.
Yep.
One of the if one of the more interesting books, and it was kind of a synchronous experience at the time because like it was towards the end of when my whole doing a bunch of drugs, especially acid and mushrooms or whatever, was the electric Kool-Aid acid test by Tom Wolfe. I don't know if anybody's ever read it, about Ken Casey, who was where Timothy Leary was on the West Coast, or sorry, the East Coast, doing his studies up in New England. Ken Casey was on the West Coast, and after he wrote like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, he developed a commune, and for like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, I forget how long it was, he had this commune where everybody was just pretty much taking acid all the time.
Oh yeah,
And
I remember something. Yeah. What was the name of the book once again?
Enlightenment. I mean, the goal was enlightenment. Now, not every trip is going to be enlightening, but over time, he did it for so long, and then he finally the interesting thing is he finally got arrested at one point, and he had to go to jail for like a couple of months, and during that time, he completely stopped doing any drugs. And when he got out of jail, he realized, like, after calming down, he realized that the drug had done its job, and he was indeed, compared to himself before he started taking it, now his thoughts were a lot more free, and he perceived a change, a mental change in himself that he was never able to recognize until he got off the drug. But then, unfortunately, his friends kind of forced him back into the lifestyle. And if you watch Ken Casey nowadays, he's taking a little bit too much acid. But I mean, talking about the bad side effects, it's like I believe there is especially like hardcore taking, like I took it pretty solid for a couple of years. But there comes a time where you have to say, okay, that's about all the enlightenment I'm going to get from it, except for maybe I might do it every 5, 6, 10 years or something. But there came a point in time where it was like, all right, the drug had its effect. I learned a lot of things from it. Now it's time to go into other things. But I might return to it every now and again. But some people, like that I hung out with, had a tendency they could keep going and taking it a little bit too far, regarding the bad side effects and everything. And I believe that, if you take enough over, 20, 30, 40 years, it definitely has an effect on, how you're able to deal with society.
Yeah, mental impairment, drug-related mental impairment. That's what.
Mental impairment.
Yeah, that's what they report for LSD as negative effects.
What it is you learned from it? I'm interested to know what you learned from your acid trips. You say revelation, enlightenment. What is it?
Well, it was, I came, prejudices, come down, and you learn more about yourself, and you learn about the human experience, and you talk more when people that you're around, and you discuss philosophy, and it gives you, when you have, like sometimes it's a really funny trip, sometimes it's a real, like I had a girlfriend that I was extremely in love with at one, during 1 year of it, but I guaranteed every time we did it, there would be at least an hour where I would have to babysit her because she would go into a bad trip. But those are also experiences. The combined, after a while, I realized that person than the whole
something that
experience.
Mind is a hallucination produced by hallucinogen real, or is it just a hallucination? If it's a hallucination, what value does it have if it's not real? Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, I was less about it's less about the hallucinations, or at least for me, it was less about the hallucinations than the experience. I mean, sometimes you'd have the hallucinations, but I'd have the intense ones. Like, I mean, I went to Woodstock '94, and coming back home, I drove through a Exocet from the Dark Crystal. It terrified the heck out of me and almost crashed my car. And so I preferred not, and I've had a couple of big, intense hallucinations, but it was the more important experiences were always, you'd have some
More spiritual
stuff going
thing.
on, but it was more the experience of being around the people and the funny stories that would come out of it, even if some of them were terrifying sometimes.
Would you say it's the experiences that count, that changed you?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, most definitely.
people seem to have this idea that the drug does something to you and changes you forever. But really, it's the experiences and the learning that you have under the influence that change you forever.
Yeah.
Or that, it's the set and setting thing. You know, there's a couple of people who've got no stood up and acknowledged that LSD was a big part of their success. I think Watson and Crick, the DNA people, the
Also dreaming. I mean,
yeah, to be able to use a drug as a tool to like lucid dreaming, to be able to create pictures in your mind. The whole of Silicon Valley, you know, how do you think people came up with the ideas of making computer chips out of layers of silicon and stuff like that?
I've heard that so many
Well,
times.
that's
that programmers in Silicon
Valley. That's what they're doing now, the
Exactly.
microdosing. But back then it was,
Actually,
you know, go and drop a tab and sit in the back of the lab and dream.
Macro dosing.
Like, do you get like you said about lucid dreaming? That's what I would love to be able to do. And I've heard like, do you know about? They have these glasses out there that are supposed to like, you know, they'll start flashing and you go into REM sleep or something like that. And I've never heard of anybody like buying them. I don't know if anybody in the has, but I mean, because my wife kind of a lucid dream sometimes, but I've hardly ever realized that I'm in a dream. I pretty much like immediately wake up from it. But I didn't know if anybody had any experiences with
I hear a lot about it, and I
could
plan to study that. So maybe we can, have some, I don't know, joint experiences with that.
Yeah.
There are a couple of books that I was recommended, and like some people on VR, they speak about lucid dreaming. Some of them are very experienced. So I'm like, I have that on my to-do list in the future. I just started paying more attention to my dreams as they are because they're very chaotic, and I don't pay too much attention because they're too negative. Like I kill somebody, something is killed, all kinds of stuff, and I'm just watching stuff. Yeah, but I do plan to practice that lucid dreaming. So I don't know. I'm just gonna share my experiences and protocols later on.
Yeah, I would say all you need to do for that is to whenever you sometimes you wake up and you remember a dream, put a notepad by your bed and write it down. Right?
I'm
try and create the environment where you become used to thinking about your dreams and remembering them.
Yeah, I try to say out loud to my husband my dreams because I think it's so short. Like the moment when you wake up, I can't remember like seconds after that. So while I'm gonna be looking for a note, I don't.
You got to do it straight away.
Yeah, I know. So I heard about that practice, but I didn't start doing that. But I started paying attention to my dreams. So whenever I wake up and open my eyes, I try to retell what I saw. Oh, I had this long dream where I had like 3 stages. The last one was about this building and we had the funeral or something. And then I try to say it out loud to my husband so that way I kind of document that. But later on, yeah, I'm going to take that advice and write it down.
It's a bit like taking drugs. You have to believe in it for it to work.
Well, at least just fun experience. Why not?
Yeah, well, if you stop believing it doesn't work anymore.
It's like religion. You have to believe it.
I find it curious that
I've always been a lucid
try to
dreamer.
remember my dreams.
Didn't need
I can't remember them.
For it to work.
I mean, when I wake up, it's like everything just fades away. I'm just curious about that. I mean, what is it about the human mind that you can't remember a dream? I mean, it seemed so real at
I
the
can't
time.
remember where I put my car keys.
Maybe the chemistry maybe, who knows? Because in your dream state, your body has a different chemistry. It doesn't want you to to kill somebody in real life if you see that in your dream. So when you wake up, the different, yeah, maybe. Oh, hold on. I also have a hand raised from Tito, so I think he's gonna have a good comment. There you go, Tito. Why did you mute yourself? Unmute yourself. There you go.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Just a comment. Yeah, I've always been a lucid dreamer.
Yay.
But one question that was brought up just at the end was why we don't usually understand our remember our dreams. And I have a PhD in neuroscience, and I worked in a sleep laboratory. And it turns out one of the reasons is that during REM sleep, we have when we dream, we have a different frequency that dominates our brain activity, and this frequency is associated with a different direction of information flowing through our brain than during other parts of sleep.
Can I ask you
and
which
this
one?
Direction?
Is it beta frequency?
It's a very good.
It's rapid. It's also a high frequency. So.
It's a very good book.
Delta, alpha, and beta. There's so many frequencies now that people use, but theta, the theta frequency is sometimes associated with it.
Theta. Good to know. Please continue. Sorry.
But the thing about this, when memories become stored in our brain, all right, and we're usually replaying things that happened during our day. There's new associations that are happening at the time, but the same activity that normally enhances recall are shut down. So while we're storing, we're not able to store the process of storage, and so it just fades away pretty quickly. It's also one of the reasons why the memories that people remember tend to be the last dreams they had during sleep, not the previous ones. You may have 6 REM cycles, but only remember the very last one.
Yeah.
So
fresh.
It's all very temporary.
Very curious. I added
It's
you
a
as
very
a friend.
good book.
But I had one question I wanted to ask about just the group had to do with people's comments around the value of drugs and their lives. Someone's mentioned the word enlightenment, and we've changed. He modified that to change to insight, which is not necessarily truth about the world, but the understanding about oneself. And then we modified that to just saying these were cool experiences, and these brought value. And so at some point, I just want to know, like, well, where do the drugs come in? I mean, why not just have tea and sit with someone and talk or why not just go out and go for a hike and experience the beauty of the world? Why do we need drugs in order to get those same insights and growth that this group is kind of talking around?
We need to make mistakes. We need to be out there. We need to be put in situations in which we can't control.
Well, can we control anything?
I had a situation where it was almost telepathic with 3 other people on air. But on acid, yes.
Did you believe you were, or were you actually? I mean, was that a hallucination?
No, it was seriously like for about a good hour. We just sat there and we would begin an idea and then just see. It became so apparent that like I would start something and then my friend would finish the thought, and then one of the girls would finish the thought. And it was, it was one of the stranger things. Because I had a lot of trips, but that one I recall the most, just because of that.
I actually see that with my friends and with my husband a lot, because we spend a lot of time, and it happens constantly. But I think some states, maybe they amplify things, so it's just a frequency, and how often you have these, as you said, for a good hour, having these, similar ideas and similar, I would say, rhythm, maybe, because I when I try to explain why do I think the same things with my friends or with my husband, we're totally different people, but still when you spend a lot of time, I think you have the same pace of things. So even when you're separated, you kind of still have the same like speed of changes. So you basically have some experiences in parallel because they happen.
A lot of shared experiences, prior experiences together.
Exactly.
Can I just make a comment about what Paito was saying?
Yeah,
There's a very good book on what he's talking about, which relates to sleep, dreaming, integration of memory. It's called Why We Sleep by Whitaker. That's it, yeah. It's a very good book, yeah.
I think we...
he talks about sleep spindles and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Very good book.
Okay, good references.
And of course, as he says, drinking a cup of tea, getting into a relaxed state, meditation, yeah.
Traveling.
Blank mind, whatever that is. Not blank, but very relaxed state, yeah. That can also be helpful. And dreaming as well. I was going to say, was a scientist who discovered the benzene ring, or invented the benzene ring, just through dreaming. He woke up, he saw snakes chasing each other, and he came up with the benzene ring. I think John Lennon and many people, Mozart, just had whole symphonies come to them, and without taking, I don't know about Lennon, but certainly Mozart, it just came to them in a certain state.
Sure, but you know,
without
a lot
drugs.
of people have insightful ideas in the shower. You know, should we have a group around showers?
Why not? We could do that in theory of everything if we wish.
Sure. when we're relaxed and you know, just detached from things. Yeah, of course new ideas come, and we're not distracted. And we're stimulated to some degree.
True. I would say that all the substances, they kind of work as stimulants to me. Some people, well, not only, I can concentrate better on things, I guess, because if I read things, I read more deeply, I get interested, I'm inspired, I want to do different things, I want to read different things, and maybe I'm too much all over the place. But still, I would say that it is true. You don't have to take drugs. You know, why would you risk your, you know, freedom and reputation taking these illegal substances, doing things? But I agree with Paul. Maybe it's faster, and it kind of gives you this different perspective. I would say that, and a good how does it sample of thinking, because sometimes when you experience something very powerful, it gives you this sample for reproduction. Sometimes you can reproduce the feelings and the emotions that you have in a very powerful one-time experience that you had. You remember that, and you kind of evoke that feeling in your memory and your body and all those, you know, levels, and you can go back into that state and use it somehow. That's what I've done. Like one of my powerful experiences was when I saw these, you know, patterns in my eyes, and I thought, wow, these are multiple spaces. It felt like almost like multiverse, and I could see information decrypted, and like I saw everything I know suddenly fell into one picture. Wow, everything is interconnected, and probably these black holes are the end of everything, and the big explosions like those big bangs. Yeah, that's what you do when you're on drugs. You know, think about quantum physics.
What were you doing? Your experience time. What were you doing?
That was an evening when I decided to have that experience, and as I said, I think that was the evening when I listened to those lectures by Stanislav Grof, and he talked about transpersonal psychology. I think that branch is still not in paradigm.
Any drugs to experience time then?
That was like a third of standard dose of LSD. So basically, the dosage was ridiculous, but still. I think the state of your mind is very important. So I started thinking about soul and about, you know, different, like what's the goal of life, what's the, you know, the meaning of our existence, and how do I get more about psyche, why people are afraid of some things. Like I knew, like actually I texted a friend that I met in New York, and she had this germaphobia. She was, you know, afraid, not severe, but still she hated things like touching things, and always, you know, washed her hands and stuff. And I had that inside, like when I was listening to the lecture, I said, oh, maybe you had some, well, I just actually use the Stanislav Grof's words, but maybe she said later on, like half a year later, she said that it helped. I just messaged her that probably when you were in your mother's womb, you maybe swallowed the amniotic fluid. So it made you feel that the world around you is kind of safe and you trusted, but at the same time you had this panicking, memory, and you had this ambiguous feeling that the world is trying to kill you or infect you or something. And I thought maybe that will help. And she said, well, actually, later after you told me that, I started thinking about it, and I started, thinking, rewriting that memory and, trying to integrate into my picture. And she said that it got, better after that, the germophobia, I mean. And I thought about different things, and I saw the loop of things, like all the knowledge that I had kind of fell into one picture. The humankind history, that we move from one paradigm to another paradigm. Oh, too much information, but I would just have one thought that I would basically put as a summarization of all that trip, is that there are two opposite components of life. Hot and cold, men, women, two opposite directions. And the rest of the world is actually a combination of those two, different combinations. And they travel around each other, being attracted and repulsed. And, this is a dance of life. They always dance together, these two opposite, extremities. And whenever they always want to meet once again. And when they meet, they become one for a very, very short period. And that's basically, it's so short that it's almost non-existent. And there's like this big bang effect almost. In those two things, they forget who they were, and they start the cycle all over again, being the opposites. So if you are, because I was in love with my husband, I would see it as a reflection that I was looking for my husband for lives and lives and lives, for thousands of years. And when I met him, I actually met myself. Like, he was so similar to me, but different. And it was so amazing that I could love someone who's like a reflection of me, but at the same time, he was different. And that was so amazing that I could explore him because he was different from me. And that moment when you fall in love, it's like that moment where you have this big bang moment. And after that, you become somebody different. You transition into some different state, and you continue your path in another direction. Yeah, that's my insight.
I also kind of have
It's a great attack of nature as well.
Yeah, a lot of things that were like, endless. It felt like 8,000 years, like on a load of information that I kind of felt.
I kind of have an answer for Fido. I was thinking about it as you were talking there. Is that when I was doing LSD, I became more profoundly aware of the concept of synchronicity and like synchronicity. What I would say is that synchronicity is happening all the time, but it happens faster when you're on hallucination.
True.
Like there's more. In my experience, like.
More moments.
It's all the time, on drugs, off drugs, it doesn't matter. Once you learn how to see it, it's there all the time. But more tends to happen on hallucinogens for some unknown reason, in my experience. So that would be the only thing that. There it is.
Paul, I heard you saying something, and I have a lot of hand raises as well. You have a microphone?
I was going to say. I've forgotten now. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's affected my neurochemistry temporarily, but I'm sure it won't last.
You should use psilocybin.
Have you read the Celestine Prophecy? What you're talking about sounds like a book called the Celestine Prophecy, which I took interest in at one stage and then decided it was not worth. And oh yes, psychological studies. It's what you pay attention to. This business of, the other day, Emma was actually talking about a picture of out of the Gita Hindu book of the 4 horses driven by Arjuna and driven by Krishna and Arjuna. I thought, I'd love to find a picture like that. I just walked into an Indian shop and I was looking through and said, oh, there it is. quite often it's what you actually pay attention to.
True.
Not necessarily what's synchronous. I think there are psychological studies that have investigated that. I don't know if Paito can elaborate on that.
Yeah, it is true. You pay attention to. And also, I think coming to some conclusions, I would say, that was the insightful, enlightenment moment that I had that, oh, I knew all these things, but now they fall into one picture. Well, maybe that's too much, seeing too many patterns where there are no patterns, but still. Isaac is leaving, so bye. Keep coming like maybe next week. Oh, by the way, next week I have this idea of discussing death and grieving, so that's gonna be gloomy part. But still, I think that's very important. I had my mother-in-law actually pass away just this Sunday, so I wanted to share and hear other people sharing about the death of their loved ones.
It's a subject that's very rarely discussed. We tend to bury it.
Oh yeah, because we don't want to see negative things.
No pun intended.
There's a free VR app called Vestige. It's a 10-minute video on grieving, and I thought it was a really cool kind of experience.
Vestige?
Yeah, I can recommend it. Vestige.
How do you spell that?
It's a 10-minute. VESTIGE.
Oh yeah, I was right. Okay, 10-minute application.
It's kind of like a documentary of someone's grieving process.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's a video, like a 3D video.
Should I look for it on Quest 2? Is it there?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm on.
I'll check. Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
It might be on all of them.
VR. Just look it up on YouTube VR, like VR the whatever the. That's where I found a lot of it like that.
Oh, okay.
Quest 2, YouTube VR. I'm writing it down. YouTube VR. Got it. Okay. Somehow hand raises. Let me see. There's been like some extra ones. Okay. Helion, 16 minutes ago. Do you still remember what you wanted to say? Then Pichenda and
well, I do, but it was immediately before Paito, and it was basically to say what Paito was saying about the integration of memory from the previous days, and that is in sleep. So it was when we were talking about sleep and stuff like that. So it was really just almost exactly what Paito said afterwards there. So it's very important to that we filter out the memories that are useful to us for our survival and get rid of a lot of other stuff, and that's part of what this process is.
I have
the things we go through when we're dreaming. That's why we don't remember a lot, because we don't want to add to the stuff here. We're trying to filter out the amount of stuff you have to save for the long term.
I heard that in experiments with mice, they actually, when they taught the mice to pass through the maze, mice, when they had some devices connected to their brains, and you could hear the patterns of their thinking as they were learning, and when they were sleeping, they had 20 times faster same pattern, so they were learning like in their sleep. And I do have that a lot, or maybe that because that I've learned that fact, maybe, I don't know. Every time I learn something in real life, I can clearly remember how I continue learning in my sleep. A lot. I have that a lot recently, like maybe within 2 or 3 months.
It's certainly a technique, is that if you want to learn things, if you learn them and then have it just before you go to sleep, and then a good night's sleep on them, you'll remember them better than if you didn't have a good night's sleep and stuff like that.
Also good for problem solving.
Important, isn't it? Yeah.
This is what we were
Yes, for problem solving. Yes.
Yeah, I had that experience when I was
when
I was 17 years old. I was studied scripture, in Buddhist teaching, and every time I go to sleep, I would dream of someone teaching me so profound that I have a great enlightened feeling. But when I wake up, I don't remember any of it, but the feeling's still there as I awake.
It actually sounds like a trip. Yeah. It's like a lot of people, when I studied some reports, they say, I don't remember what that was, but it was something amazing, like some invention. I have a joke about it, actually, like as a self-irony. Like I'm going to tell it later.
And nowadays, I learn how to build a world. I would run into a problem, and I go to sleep, I wake up, I find a solution.
Oh, cool. You have good sleep connection then.
Yes.
Nice.
And,
I
I want to
find
say
that,
about,
there's a
Sorry,
time
go ahead,
for me. It's about 3:00 in the morning, and you'll wake up and you'll have really good ideas, and then you've really got to make sure you write something down or somehow make yourself remember it, because you'll forget them. So, some of the best ideas I come up with is it's 3:00 in the morning for me. Is a particularly good time if I wake up.
That's the time I usually wake up every morning.
Yeah. It would probably make the subject for quite a good theory of everything, as it's the whole sleep thing. You could perhaps do some research on it, and we can have a specific one about sleep.
Yeah, why not? We talk about it a lot, and I think it's very curious.
It comes up a lot, doesn't it?
And many people talk about lucid dreaming, so maybe we can ask those who are experienced to share their knowledge and their experiences. That'd be amazing. Baito, I think, is leaving soon, so we can say bye to. Yay! Thanks for coming.
Baito.
Yeah. I'll definitely catch up with you later, sometime. I see some hand raises as well. Chetan, Tier. I don't see the rest of the
dreams.
I hear that a lot in VR, and somebody even told me that VR actually was built upon those principles that are for lucid dreaming. I'm like, wow, that's curious. I want to know more about it. Turipat Chetan.
I'd be interested. I start to dream in VR now sometimes.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned
dream
that.
itself is just like being in here. Yeah. Not always, but occasionally.
Hold on.
Two
I'm
dreams.
moving around with my
Buckaroo,
buttons.
let me give you a megaphone. Somebody's. Hold on, I have some problems with my. Hold on.
There was a guy who did VR for a month. It was as an experiment. Like, he just put himself in a helmet for an entire month. It's on YouTube. You can look it up, but it's a very, very interesting experience.
Wow.
He literally he showered with it on. It's a really freaking weird video to watch.
Where is it? Did he have any reports?
It's on YouTube. Just. Yeah, I mean, he did multiple things. You look up the guy 1 month experience, or maybe it was like a week. Maybe it was like 7 days in VR, but it was enough for him to have an experience and start. Like, the real world became unreal to him.
Yeah, some people say they spend around 95% of their time on VR, and I'm like, wow, that's very curious. Jet, I think it was Jet who mentioned it once. I'm gonna ask her next time. We can ask her next time. Yeah. Okay. I had some megaphone given to Chetan, but there was a lot of noise, so I actually muted. I give power and I take power in this space. This is my world. There you go. Yeah.
Oh, hell, let's see.
Chetan Turipati, would you like to say something? I think. Wow. Megaphone.
Yeah.
You're rather far from the megaphone. I mean, from your microphone, physically, I guess. Can you get closer?
Okay.
Microphone.
Yeah. Hello.
I can hear you, but not very clearly, unfortunately.
Okay, I don't know why, but I'm trying my best.
We'll get closer.
Okay.
Speak. We'll try to
Scrubbing.
listen.
Speak, and we shall try and decipher.
Yeah.
Sound like a firework.
No, I can't get it.
No, I can't hear anything either.
I can hear him speaking, but there's a lot of noise.
It's very
too much.
Yeah.
Too much static.
Yes,
static.
Not really. Can't hear you.
Nope.
I kind of hear you, but I can't make out the words because there's a lot of noise. And I think that's a microphone noise or something. Okay, let me check if I have some other hand raises and maybe we can figure something out. Okay, so Mexicans, hey, welcome back. I haven't seen you for a while. I see Paul F's hand raise and also Chester 37. Paul, would you like to go first?
Yeah,
I see you on the
say
list.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Who?
Paul. Mr.
Me.
Sandoz.
Oh, me. Well,
Paul,
no,
yeah,
not.
Yeah,
go
you do.
for it,
Yeah.
I was going to say, you know, Emma, the shaman that I follow and participate in the fire dance, he said the fire dance came to him over a period of years in a dream. And as you know, it's a very strange thing. Strangest thing I've ever seen or participated in. And no, without drugs. Without drugs.
Good note. Good note. Without drugs. Yeah. Okay. Next megaphone goes to, almost like in Oscars, to Mexicans. Let me give you a megaphone. There you go. Welcome back.
Well, you know, I want to comment on that part that, you know, 95 people, you know, spend their time on VR and they
Some people
have dreams in VR. Well, I would say that I would up to 90%, hopefully a little bit less, you know, of my time spent in VR. And I still have yet to dream in VR. But I used to dream all the time, and I would remember my dreams so clearly. But in this day, like probably for the past year, like I've really dreamed. And not something that. Anyway, I don't know. That's a little sort of side note. It's not on topic, but I just wanted to mention it.
Yes, certainly it is on topic. Anything is on topic on theory of everything. That's why it's everything. And yeah, I think definitely we talk about dreaming a lot, and probably it's a good idea to make that. Yeah, let me plan it for 2 next upcoming weeks.
You know,
yeah,
like,
death, grieving, and sleeping.
Like the next part that you mentioned about sleeping and, you know, then retaining the memory of whatever you had just done so much, like homework or something, is something I'll definitely have to try because I'm currently going to college and I've had some trouble with my human biology course.
Cool.
And I'll do some of it, but then I'll stay up the rest of the night playing VR. So I'll have to give that a try and see if a good night's rest will help me out.
Well, sleeping definitely helps memorizing and learning. And first of all, because your body's healthy and your brain works better. And secondly, I think it plays an important role in learning process. Like your brain actually filters, as I think Helion mentioned that it filters the information from what's important and what's not. I believe so. And I have one more hand. Oh, a lot of hand raises actually. Chester, you're going to be next. Okay, there was some option. How do I give the megaphone from here? No. Oh, hold on a sec. I think Mendez left. I can't see him in my periphery, so probably it's gonna take a little bit longer from me.
I like the screens you got set up in here. They're pretty cool.
Thanks. I think like I'm doing a very lousy job. Like some people create some amazing worlds, like with, you know, islands and all those things, and I'm like, it's gonna be just a ground and, you know, photographs and videos from YouTube. Oh, let me switch the video to the one that you have when you are on, let's say, Psilocybin. I think there are different visuals. Yeah, I gave a megaphone to Chester, so if you want to say something, I hope you still have it.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
I can. Well.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi everybody in this
Hey.
virtual space. I would say lots of things to talk about in this regard, of course. Regarding drugs are bad. I think it kind of fucks you up in many different ways. Although I've done most of them, Although I would say, I remember one time, 20 years ago, when all of us were on LSD, on acids, right? And I remember my friend, Gary, he was down there, he was and my other friend was just, we were just kind of zoning out, coming up on acid, all the rest of it. We were about 17, 18 years old. And I remember, on that acid state that you can't really explain in 21, right? You just going through that of that comeuppance on drugs, on acid. And I remember he was like out of the blue. I think I was playing a video game or something, and my other friend was just doing what he was doing. And I remember that Gary, he looked up at a certain point when he put the tobacco in Europe. We put tobacco in, and we put the marijuana in, and then filter and everything else. And then he looked up at a certain point, and he just said a roach at the time, like something to put in the back of it to smoke it, right? And he did that like without any communication whatsoever, and we were all on the page, and he just stopped.
I keep losing you.
And my friend, just like we were just all zoning out in our own points, and he just kind of he just kind of, oh, am I cutting out? Sorry.
Yeah, fading away.
He just made this. He just threw him a lighter, and he put up his hand, and he just caught the lighter exactly the same time as he needed that lighter, and it was just so bizarre, And then we all snapped out of it for a second. It was like, oh my God, It was like this communication that was happening without us saying anything at all, on these drugs. So yeah, he just caught the lighter when he needed it. He didn't ask for it or anything, and I think that's something to be observed. I think that's something that's beyond our everyday perception that we need when we're, going to work every day and everything else, and we're trying to commune, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. I believe that there's so many different layers towards that, that we're on a ball floating through space and all the rest of it, but we have to pay our bills, we have to do what's necessary by the government. We have to pay our taxes. We have to, do everything else. But those little instances are a reminder of, like, we feel it every day. We feel that those things are connected. It's only when you do drugs that you can actually connect with that, even though it fucks you up physically. And I think that, like, that's all around us. Like for example, the ability for us to know that we're all going to die, for example. When you have this TikTok generation, where you have these beautiful girls that are just, they know what they have, they look in the mirror, and they're like, okay, I've won the genetic lottery, and I'm going to go on TikTok, and I'm going to make 300 videos of how gorgeous I am. Like this whole kind of plague of kind of physicality towards the spirituality, towards what we really know underneath. And I think it's kind of a big soup of, especially in this day and age, it's a big soup of, like, people really don't understand what really is important, I think. But when you do drugs, when you do acid, and your friend, suddenly you witness your friend making a joint, and then he is like, just raises his hand and catches a lighter because he needs a lighter without anything saying. I think that it goes beyond our ability to understand what's going on. And unfortunately, it's like we've only been given enough intelligence to sort of confuse ourselves, I think, in a way. We're all going to die,
experience like that.
and nobody cares, really. It's weird. It's a whole weird situation we're in now, I think. Technology as well, VR, everything else.
Existential.
Anyway.
Fears,
Existential,
like
absolutely,
that,
really.
exactly
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's
I didn't
scary.
get to any point there, but yeah, I think we're all on the same page in what we're going through in modern life. I think it's weird. It's a weird time.
Yeah, it is. Like somebody said, I think it was an old saying that if you want to curse a person, wish them to be born in a times of changes. So I think the times of changes now is like a lot going on. Yes. Yeah.
I wish VR was more 50 years in the future. I think we're just witnessing the birth of it. I wish I was born 50 years in time, really.
Keep your health.
See what
Don't take
happens.
drugs. Maybe you'll see it. How old are you? Maybe you're going to live to that. Who knows? I hope
well,
so.
hopefully we, a few runs around the park and a few smoothies will sort me out. But now and again, you have to sort of indulge, and it
Make
does
your
fuck you up.
choices
But it also,
wisely.
exactly, you can regulate yourself. You know what you need to do. Absolutely. But it's you could be the idealistic person, or you can be someone that has a bit of a flutter, and I'm a bit of the latter. So.
Interesting. Okay, I have a lot of hand raised.
Get bored. Life's boring, right? Consciousness is boring.
Well,
Can be.
if you make it boring, yes, why not? I think it's the
it's
perception.
kind of boring.
Well, the perception also.
It's kind of boring.
4.8 billion years of development, and it's boring.
Exactly.
Well, developed doesn't mean it's exciting for
Exactly.
some people.
Who the fuck designed this shit? Come on, man, make it more interesting.
The good old Chester. Yeah.
We are. We're inventing VR, right? We're inventing VR. We have Xbox. We have PlayStation. We're sort of amusing ourselves to death as well.
Oh yeah. Okay, sweet honey. Can't see the rest of your honeybee. Yes, I gave you the megaphone.
I totally get what you're saying, though. Fuck.
What? Which one?
I missed the. It's me. I missed the beginning of your topic here. I just wanted to ask, because I have to go. Is that everyone here taken LSD?
We talk about the psychedelics. It's not necessarily that too.
25 years ago, yeah.
Some of people. I would say 30% of people.
I had
40,
a bad
50.
one once, and then I never really did it again.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, because I come in and I was a bit lost, but then I thought, well, they're all taking and talking about experiences they had on LSD.
Yeah, let me give you a short review before you go. This is a weekly event. Oh, actually 6 minutes before the official end of the event. So this is a weekly event. There are two hosts, me and Mendez. Over there, you can see the behind you guys. You can see the poster where I put the channel that you can find on the website. So if you want, if you want to see the future events, that's gonna send you a reminder. Anyway, so this is a weekly event, and we meet to discuss things that we are interested in. So first event, it's been for 6 months or so. And first events, I just shared the knowledge and different aspects that I was more knowledgeable about. But later on, it's just a new format that we came up with. There are people who come to discuss this topic that is on the poster. And after people come, sometimes I share what I know to see if we're on the same page or give a background. And then we just discuss. I see these events as a way to expand my mindset through listening to other people's perspectives. Because sometimes we don't know what people feel and they experience. They are different from us. And I think the differences actually let us grow and expand our mindset. Because, and it's very important to have this, trusting atmosphere. And I feel like Outspace is a nice, favorable place for that. And it's amazing that people are so nice and mostly developed that even if we have some discussions of religion or anything, everybody's rather respectful, and that way we learn from each other because people share their experiences, they share their thoughts, and that way through personal connection I expand my world. So that's the the concept of these events.
Hope springs eternal. Yes.
Yeah. And we
it was very interesting. I will come
even though
the next
people are a
week's
nightmare,
one
but yeah.
about death. Did you say?
Yeah.
It was about death?
Yeah, I wanted to
Next
share
week.
Yeah. So it's gonna be about death and grieving, I would say. I'll gather some materials and maybe share some techniques. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about the experiences, who experienced the death of a loved one, and how did they cope, and why people. Because I feel I like hard topics like psychedelics, and people don't talk about these too much. And I feel like if you want to be in the middle of the spectrum, you should know the extremities of the spectrum. So you want to have not only positive things, but the opposite opinion as well. So
Absolutely.
sometimes if you
100%.
want to
I
live
totally agree.
fully, you should talk about death and see it as part of the life. And I come from a very specific area, and it's funny to watch how different cultures, they have different rituals. And окей, он просто взял и вырубился.